The alarm screamed through the monitoring station like a dying animal. Sensor operator Kivrin jumped in his seat, his three eyes widening as the displays lit up with red warnings. Something was wrong? Something was very wrong, sir? We have an anomaly, Kivrin shouted across the control room. His hands moved quickly over the holographic controls, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. Station Commander Veloth walked over, his tall frame casting a shadow over the sensor station. He was a veteran of 30 years in the Calrex Imperial Navy. He had seen wars, rebellions, and strange phenomena that would make younger officers sleep. But the look on Kivrin's face made even him feel uneasy. What kind of anomaly? Veloth asked, keeping his voice calm and steady. Gravitational, sir. Something massive is moving through space toward the core systems, but... Kivrin paused, checking his readings again. But there's nothing there? Veloth frowned. Explain. No electromagnetic emissions. No heat signature. No quantum fluctuations. No subspace wake. Nothing that indicates a ship or any known object, just ... Gravity, moving gravity. Kivrin's voice shook slightly. And it's moving fast, sir. Faster than anything I've ever seen. The commander leaned closer to the display. The gravitational readings were clear enough. Something with significant mass was traveling through space at incredible speed. But every other sensor showed empty space. It was as if a ghost was flying toward the heart of the Calrex Empire. Run a full diagnostic on all sensor arrays, Veloth ordered. Check for malfunctions. 3 minutes later, the results came back. Every sensor was working perfectly. The technicians confirmed it twice. The readings were real. Veloth felt a cold sensation run through his body. In all his years of service, he had never encountered anything like this. He reached for the communications panel and opened a priority channel to Imperial Command. This is Monitoring Station Epsilon 7. We have a Level 1 unidentified contact approaching the core systems. Requesting immediate guidance. The response came within seconds. The face of Admiral Vexal appeared on the screen. The Admiral was old, with scarred skin from countless battles and eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations. He commanded the entire Outer Defense Fleet. Commander Veloth, explain your report, the Admiral said sharply. Vel single quotes otes transmitted the sensor data. He watched as the Admiral's expression changed from annoyance to confusion, then to something that looked like concern. This makes no sense, Vexal said quietly, studying the data. No ship can move without leaving some kind of signature. Are you certain this isn't a sensor ghost or some natural phenomenon? We've checked everything, Admiral. The readings are consistent across all stations in this sector. Whatever it is, it's real, and it's heading straight for the capital system. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. His fingers drummed on his desk, a habit he had when thinking through difficult problems. How long until it reaches Imperial space? At current speed? 18 hours, sir. 18 hours. The Admiral's face hardened. I'm convening an emergency council. Continue monitoring and report any changes immediately. And, Commander, prepare your station for possible evacuation. The transmission ended. Veloth stood in the sudden silence of the control room, feeling the weight of those last words. In 30 years of service, he had never been told to prepare for evacuation. The Emergency Council met in the Grand War, room of the Imperial Flagship Dominator's Pride. 12 of the Empire's highest-ranking military officers sat around a circular table made of polished crystal. Holographic displays showed the mysterious anomaly's path, projected to pass through 3 inhabited systems before reaching the capital world of Calrex. Prime Admiral Vexal stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back. Gentlemen, we face an unprecedented situation. An unknown object is approaching our space using technology we cannot detect or understand. It must be the Zoranak, said General Krathix, slamming his fist on the table. Those rebels have been developing new weapons. This is clearly an attack. The Zoranak don't have this kind of technology, countered Science Admiral Peverus. Nobody does. We're talking about a propulsion system that produces no detectable energy signature. That shouldn't be possible according to known physics. Then it's a malfunction? Another officer suggested. Our sensors are simply failing to detect a conventional ship. Multiple independent stations are reporting the same readings, Dexal said firmly. This is not a malfunction. This is real, and we need to respond appropriately. Can we target it? Asked Fleet Commander Ziegtel. No, Pevris admitted. Our weapon systems lock onto energy signatures, mass signatures, or visual confirmation. This object provides only minimal gravitational readings. Our targeting computers can't establish a firing solution. Then we use visual targeting, Krathik said. Get ships in its path. When it drops into normal space, we hit it with everything we have. Vexal considered this. Deploy the 3rd and 7th fleets to intercept. All ships are to maintain defensive formations. Attempt communication on all known frequencies. If it shows hostile intent, you are authorized to engage. The orders went out across the Empire. Hundreds of warships moved into position, their crews tense and uncertain. They were preparing to fight an enemy they couldn't see, using technology they couldn't understand. On monitoring stations throughout the sector, operators watched as the anomaly continued its steady approach. It didn't deviate from its course. It didn't slow down. It just kept coming, silent and invisible, like death itself. Commander Veloth hadn't slept in 12 hours. He stood at his station, drinking his 5th cup of stimulant tea, watching the anomaly grow closer. His crew was exhausted too, but nobody complained. They all understood the importance of what they were witnessing. Sir, it's entering the Devaric system, Kivron reported. Still, no change in speed or heading. Devaric was home to 3 billion Imperial citizens. If this was a weapon, if it somehow exploded or attacked, the casualties would be devastating. Alert Devaric system defense, Veloth ordered. Evacuate any ships in its projected path. The minutes crawled by. The anomaly passed through the Devaric system without incident, not even slowing down as it flew past the inhabited worlds. It stayed on course, heading deeper into Imperial space. Relief and confusion spread through the Empire in equal measure. If this wasn't an attack, what was it? Where was it going? 6 hours later, the anomaly crossed into core Imperial space. The assembled fleet waited at the border of the Kelver system, home to a massive military fortress. 300 warships held their positions, weapons charged. Crews at battle stations. Admiral Ixal was aboard the Dominator's Pride, watching the tactical display with growing tension. His years of experience told him something was about to happen. He could feel it in his bones. All ships, this is the Admiral, he broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. The unknown contact is approaching. Remember your orders. Attempt communication first. Hold fire unless fired upon. Sir, his tactical officer called out. The anomaly is slowing down. Every eye in the command center fixed on the displays. The gravitational readings showed the impossible object decelerating rapidly. It was dropping out of whatever strange form of travel it had been using. Visual contact. Someone shouted. On the main screen, space seemed to ripple and fold. And then, emerging from nothing like a ghost becoming solid, a ship appeared. It was unlike anything in Imperial records. The hull was dark, almost black, with angular surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were no obvious engines, no visible weapons ports, no running lights. It looked more like a piece of void given shape than a spacecraft, and it was small. Barely the size of a frigate, a single small ship had penetrated the most powerful empire in the galaxy, moving undetected past all their defenses, and now hung in space before their assembled fleet. Admiral Vexal stared at the image, his mind racing through possibilities and implications. Who built this? Where did it come from? And most importantly, what did they want? Scan it, he ordered. Get me every piece of information you can. The sensor teams worked frantically, but the results were confusing and contradictory. The ship's hull seemed to scatter their sensor beams. They couldn't determine what it was made of or what power source it used. Sir, should we hail it? The communications officer asked before the Exile could respond. The fortress commander's voice came over the emergency channel. They're not responding to any communications. It's just sitting there. I'm taking defensive action. Belay that order, the Exile shouted. Do not fire. But he was too late. The fortress opened fire, sending powerful energy beams lancing through space toward the mysterious ship. The energy beams streaked across space, brilliant blue light that would normally vaporize armor plating and melt through hull sections. Every eye in the fleet watched as the weapon's fire approached the mysterious dark ship. The beams hit the vessel's hull and simply splashed across it like water hitting stone. The dark surface didn't even glow from the heat. It was as if the most powerful weapons in the Imperial arsenal were nothing more than flashlights. Direct hit, no effect, the tactical officer reported, his voice barely a whisper. The fortress is firing again. The fortress commander, a bull-headed officer named Gratak, wasn't the type to give up easily. He had spent his career fighting rebels and pirates. In his mind, anything that didn't respond to communication was hostile. He ordered his gunners to switch to kinetic rounds. Massive railguns fired, sending tungsten projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. These weapons could punch through a battle cruiser's armor like paper. The rounds closed on the dark ship in seconds. They vanished, not deflected, not destroyed. They simply disappeared as they got close to the ship, as if reality itself was swallowing them. What in the void... Admiral Exile breathed. Leaning forward in his command chair, then the dark ship moved. It accelerated from a standstill to incredible speed in less than a second. No ship in the Imperial fleet could match such acceleration. The G-forces involved would turn any crew into paste against the walls. But the dark ship moved as if physics was merely a suggestion. It dodged the next volley of railgun fire with ease, weaving through the storm of metal with impossible precision. Then it closed the distance to the fortress, moving so fast the tracking systems could barely follow. The fortress crew panicked. They fired every weapon they had. Missiles, lasers, plasma cannons, particle beams. The space around the dark ship lit up like a star going supernova. Nothing touched it. The ship moved through the weapon's fire like a dancer, each motion fluid and precise. It closed to within a few hundred meters of the fortress, close enough that the fortress's point defense systems activated automatically. Then it stopped. It just hung there in space, motionless, as if waiting for something. The fortress crew held their breath, fingers hovering over firing controls, waiting for the attack that would surely come. Instead, the communications panel lit up. Every ship in the fleet received the same transmission simultaneously. The message was in perfect Imperial standard, the formal language used by the Calrex government. We come in peace. Your aggression is noted but forgiven. We seek diplomatic contact with your leadership. The voice was strange. It had a quality that didn't match any known species. The tone was calm, almost friendly, despite the fortress having just tried to destroy them. Admiral Exile sat frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to process what was happening. Then his training took over. Cease fire! All ships, cease fire immediately. He broadcast on all channels. Commander Gratak, stand down your weapons. But Admiral, we don't know what this thing is capable of. It's capable of destroying your fortress anytime it wants. The Exile cut him off sharply. It just demonstrated complete superiority over our weapons systems. If it wanted you dead, you would be dead. Now stand down. There was a long pause, then Gratak's reluctant voice came back. Weapons standing down, sir? The Exile turned to his communications officer. Open a channel. Let's see who we're talking to. The channel opened. The Admiral spoke carefully, choosing his words with precision. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Exile of the Calrex Imperial Navy. We apologize for the hostile reception. The fortress commander acted without authorization. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The response came immediately. We are representatives of the human species from the planet Earth. We have been observing your empire for some time. We believe it is time to establish formal diplomatic relations. We mean you no harm? Humans? Pevris muttered from his station. I've never heard of such a species. Neither had anyone else in the Imperial fleet. The Empire kept detailed records of every known spacefaring civilization in the galaxy. Humans weren't in those records. How is it you've been observing us? Vixal asked. And why have we never detected your presence? We will be happy to explain everything in person, the human voice replied. But such discussions should take place through proper diplomatic channels. We propose a meeting at a neutral location. You may choose the site and bring whatever security you deem necessary. The Admiral considered this. Every instinct told him this was dangerous. An unknown species with technology far beyond anything the Empire possessed, appearing from nowhere and requesting meetings. It could be a trap. It could be the opening move in an invasion, but they had no choice. This ship had penetrated their defenses easily. If there were more ships like it, if these humans decided to be hostile, the Empire would be in serious danger. Better to talk and learn what they wanted. We need time to consult with our government, Vexal said. Can you remain in the system while we make arrangements? Of course. We've waited this long. A few more days won't matter. The channel closed. The dark ship moved away from the fortress, taking up a position at the edge of the system. It just sat there, silent and dark, waiting. The next few days were chaos across the Empire. The news of the mysterious human ship spread quickly despite attempts to keep it secret. Speculation ran wild. Some said it was an ancient civilization returning. Others claimed it was a trick by the Zoranak rebels. A few religious groups declared it was a sign of the end times. The Imperial Council met in emergency session on Calrex Prime. The Emperor himself, ancient and rarely seen in public anymore, attended the meeting. They debated for hours about how to handle the situation. Some counselors wanted to refuse all contact, declaring the humans hostile and rallying the entire Imperial military against them. Others argued for caution, pointing out that one small ship had made their best weapons look like toys. What if there were thousands more? Finally, the Emperor made his decision. They would meet with the humans. The location would be Kevris Station, a neutral trading post on the border of Imperial space. It was far enough from the capital that any attack wouldn't threaten the core worlds, but important enough to show respect. The Empire sent a full delegation. Admiral Lexal would lead it, accompanied by Ambassador Philenix, a skilled diplomat who had negotiated treaties with a dozen different species. They brought a full security detail and enough warships to fight a small war if necessary. The human ship arrived at Kevris Station exactly on time. It docked smoothly, its dark hull still refusing to give up any secrets to the watching sensors. The delegation watched nervously as the airlock began to cycle. Nobody knew what to expect. Would the humans be warriors? Merchants? Conquerors? Would they even be recognizable as living beings or something completely alien? The airlock opened and 3 humans stepped out. They were bipedal, roughly the same height as most Imperial species. They had 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head with 2 eyes facing forward. Their skin was smooth, ranging from dark brown to lighter tan. They wore simple uniforms of dark blue material with no visible armor or weapons. They looked ordinary, almost. Disappointingly so, the one in front. A female with dark hair pulled back from her face stepped forward. She smiled, showing white teeth. Greetings. I am Captain Saracen of the United Earth Space Corps. This is Engineer Marcus Webb and Xenodiplomat Dr. Amara Okafor. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Her voice was warm and friendly, nothing like the cold efficiency of most Imperial officers. She extended her hand in what appeared to be some kind of greeting gesture. Ambassador Philenix, uncertain, reached out and touched her hand. The human grasped his hand and moved it up and down once before releasing it. A handshake, apparently. A simple physical greeting. Welcome to Kevris Station, Philenix said, recovering his diplomatic composure. I am Ambassador Philenix of the Calrex Empire. We have many questions. I'm sure you do, Captain Chun said, still smiling. We have a lot to discuss. Shall we find somewhere more comfortable to talk? They moved to a conference room that had been prepared for the meeting. The humans sat on one side of the table, the Imperial delegation on the other. Guards stood at every entrance, weapons ready but not pointed at anyone. Admiral Vexal wasted no time on pleasantries. Explain your technology. How did you travel through our space undetected? What kind of propulsion system produces no energy signature? The human engineer, Marcus Webb, spoke up. He had an easy manner, like someone explaining something simple to a friend. We call it the Alcubierre-Kepler drive. Instead of pushing through space, we warp space itself around our ship. We create a bubble where space contracts in front of us and expands behind us. The ship itself never actually moves, so there's no traditional energy signature to detect. That's theoretical physics, Pevris said, shock evident in his voice. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical. They were, Marcus agreed. Until we figured out how to use exotic matter more efficiently. Took us about 40 years of research and development. 40 years. The Empire had known the theory for centuries, but dismissed it as impossible. Admiral Vexal leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the three humans sitting across from him. 40 years of research, he repeated slowly. Which means you've had this technology for some time. How long have you known about us? About the Empire? Captain Sarah Chun glanced at her colleagues before answering. We discovered the galactic community 32 years ago. One of our deep space probes picked up subspace communications. We spent the next 2 years building better receivers and translating the languages. Once we understood what we were hearing, we made a decision. What decision? Ambassador Phalanx asked. To stay hidden. To watch and learn before revealing ourselves. The room went silent. The implications of that statement settled over the Imperial delegation like a heavy weight. You've been spying on us for 30 years? Vexal's voice was cold, his military training telling him to see this as hostile action. Not spying, Dr. Amara Okuffer said gently. She was older than the other two humans, with gray streaking her dark hair. Her eyes held a wisdom that came from long experience. Observing, learning, we needed to understand what kind of galaxy we were entering before we made contact. And what did you learn? Phalanx asked. Amara chose her words carefully. We learned that the galaxy is beautiful and diverse. We learned that intelligent life comes in countless forms, each with their own cultures, philosophies, and dreams. We also learned that the galaxy is dangerous. Empires rise and fall through conquest. Weaker species are absorbed or destroyed. Wars are common. Independence is rare. You judge us, Vexal said flatly. No, Sarah said firmly. We understand you. Humanity's own history is full of empires and conquest. We know what it's like to build power through strength. But we also know the cost of those choices. We wanted to make sure that when we revealed ourselves, we did it from a position where we couldn't be easily conquered or dismissed. Marcus Webb pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic display appeared above the table, showing a star map of the local region of space. A small blue dot appeared, isolated from the major trade routes and population centers. This is Earth, Marcus explained. Our homeworld. We're located in what you call the Outer Rim, in a region you've classified as low priority for expansion. We've been there for millions of years, evolving, developing, reaching for the stars. And for the last 30 years, we've been building. The map changed, showing Earth's solar system. Dozens of installations appeared, orbiting planets and moons. Shipyards, research stations, mining operations, defense platforms. We didn't just build one ship, Sarah said quietly. We built a civilization that could defend itself. We studied your technology, your tactics, your politics. We learned what worked and what didn't. And we developed our own approaches to the problems of spaceflight and survival. The fortress's weapons had no effect on your ship, Vexal said. Explain that. Marcus smiled, seeming almost eager to discuss the technical details. Adaptive shielding using compressed exotic matter. When energy or matter approaches the ship, the field redirects it into higher dimensional space. From your perspective, it just disappears. It's the same principle we use for the drive system, just applied differently. And the acceleration? No organic crew could survive the forces we observed. Inertial dampening, Marcus replied. We generate a counterfield inside the ship that neutralizes acceleration forces. The crew feels nothing, no matter how fast we're moving or turning. It took a lot of trial and error to perfect. We lost some good people in the early tests. His voice grew somber at that last statement. It was clear that the humans' technological achievements had come at a cost. Pevris, the science admiral, had been taking notes furiously throughout the conversation. Now he spoke up, his voice filled with both respect and frustration. You've accomplished things we thought impossible. Warp drives without subspace signatures. Perfect shielding. Inertial dampening. These are theoretical breakthroughs that should have taken centuries of research. We had motivation, Amara said. When you discover that the galaxy is full of powerful empires and that your world sits alone and vulnerable, you work very hard to change that situation. Humanity is good at solving problems when survival is at stake. How many ships do you have? Vixal asked bluntly. It was the question everyone wanted answered. Sarah smiled slightly. Enough, we're not going to give you exact numbers, Admiral. I hope you understand. But I can tell you that Earth is well defended. Any attempt to invade or conquer us would be extremely costly, even for an empire as powerful as yours. We have no intention of invading you, Phelenix said quickly, shooting a warning glance at Dexal. You've come in peace. We will respect that. We appreciate that, Ambassador, Amara said. And we want to be clear about our intentions. We're not here to threaten anyone or make demands. We're here to establish diplomatic relations, to open trade, to share knowledge where appropriate. We want to be part of the galactic community. But on your own terms, Vixal observed. On equal terms, Sarah corrected. We won't be a client state or a protectorate. We're willing to negotiate treaties, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts. But we'll do it as equals, not as subjects. There was steel in her voice that made it clear this point was not negotiable. The humans might be friendly, but they were not weak. Your technology is generations ahead of ours in some areas, Pevers said. What do you want from the Empire? What could we possibly offer you? Marcus laughed. Don't sell yourselves short, Admiral. You have things we need badly. Resources, for one. Earth's solar system is rich, but we're just one system. We need raw materials, rare elements, exotic compounds. Your empire spans hundreds of systems. You have access to resources we can only dream of. You also have knowledge, Amara added. Biological sciences, cultural diversity, medical techniques, agricultural methods. Every species in the galaxy has developed solutions to problems in different ways. We want to learn from you, just as we hope you'll learn from us. And you have people, Sarah said. Artists, philosophers, scientists, explorers. Humanity has been alone for a long time. We're excited to meet other intelligent species, to exchange ideas and perspectives. That's worth more than any technology or resource. Her sincerity was obvious. These humans genuinely wanted to be part of something larger than themselves. They hadn't come to conquer or dominate. They had come to connect. Fell single quotes. Nix felt some of his suspicion melting away. These were not the actions of a hostile power. They were the actions of a species reaching out in friendship, carefully and cautiously, but with genuine hope. Why now? Phelenix asked. You've been watching us for 30 years. Why reveal yourselves today? The three humans exchanged glances. Sarah nodded and Amara spoke. Because there's something you need to know. Something we've discovered that affects the entire galaxy. It's the real reason we decided to make contact now rather than waiting longer. Vexal felt a chill run down his spine. What have you discovered? Sarah stood and walked to the holographic display. She made a gesture and the image changed. It showed the galaxy from a distance, a beautiful spiral of stars and nebulae. But at the edge of the image, something else appeared. A darkness spreading like ink through water. We call it the cascade, Sarah said quietly. It's a wave of space-time destruction approaching the galaxy from extragalactic space. We detected it 5 years ago using gravitational lens analysis. Our best scientists have been studying it ever since. I've never heard of any such phenomenon, Pevris said. But his voice was uncertain. That's because your sensors aren't designed to detect it, Marcus explained. Your technology is optimized for subspace and quantum detection. You're looking at space through a specific lens? The cascade exists in a different area of physics, one that most galactic civilizations haven't explored deeply. How do you know this is real and not some sensor artifact? Vixal demanded. Because we've confirmed it with multiple independent observation methods, Marcus said. Gravitational lensing, background radiation pattern analysis, exotic particle detection. We've been watching it for 5 years, tracking its movement, calculating its speed. The data is solid. And it's coming here, Sarah said, her voice grim. At current speed, the cascade will reach the outer edge of the galaxy in approximately 5 years. Everything it touches is destroyed at a fundamental level. Space-time itself unravels. Stars, planets, civilizations, all gone. The room was silent. The Imperial delegation stared at the humans, trying to process what they were hearing. This is why you revealed yourselves, Phelenic said slowly. You need help. Or you want to help us. Or both. Both, Amara confirmed. This threat is too big for any one civilization to handle alone. The entire galaxy needs to work together if we're going to survive. But we knew that if we just appeared and started warning about some invisible threat, nobody would believe us. We needed to demonstrate that we were capable, that we had technology and knowledge worth listening to. So the dramatic entrance, the stealth approach, was all theater? Vexal asked, a hint of anger in his voice. It was proof, Sarah corrected. We needed to show that we could do things you couldn't. That way, when we told you about the cascade, you'd take it seriously. Would you have believed us if we just sent a radio message saying, "Hello, we're humans"? The meeting moved to a secure room deeper within Kevris Station. The humans had brought data crystals containing their research on the cascade. Imperial scientists crowded around displays, examining gravitational maps, radiation patterns, and mathematical models that hurt their brains to contemplate. Dr. Amara Okafor stood at a large display, explaining the phenomenon to a group of skeptical Imperial physicists. She spoke in simple terms, trying to make the complex science understandable. Think of space-time as a fabric, she began, projecting a simple visual representation. A sheet-stretched type. Everything in our universe exists on this fabric. Stars, planets, ships, all of us. The cascade is like a tear in that fabric, spreading outward from a point beyond our galaxy. What caused the tear? Asked one of the Imperial scientists, a young researcher named Tevik. We don't know, Amara admitted. Our best guess is that it originated from some kind of massive event in the space between galaxies. Maybe a collision between two black holes of unprecedented size. Maybe something else entirely. Whatever caused it, the effect is spreading at a significant fraction of light speed. But space is constantly being warped and bent by gravity, Tevik argued. Black holes, stars, even planets create distortions in space-time. How is this different? Because those are local distortions, Amara explained patiently. They bend space-time, but don't break it. The cascade is different. It's not bending space, it's unmaking it. Where the wave passes, the fundamental structure of reality collapses. Matter, energy, even the laws of physics break down. She changed the display to show a simulation. A star system sat peacefully in space. Then the wave reached it. The star flickered and vanished. The planets disappeared like smoke. Even the empty space around them seemed to blur and fade. Total annihilation, Amara said quietly. Nothing survives. This is impossible, said Admiral Pevris, though his voice lacked conviction. Our sensors would have detected something this significant. Marcus Webb, who had been listening from the side of the room, stepped forward. Let me show you something. He pulled up a different set of data on his handheld device and transferred it to the main display. These Our readings from Imperial Deep Space Monitoring Stations over the past 2 years, Marcus said. Standard background radiation measurements. Do you notice anything unusual? The Imperial scientists studied the data. To most of them, it looked like normal cosmic background radiation, the faint echo of energy that filled all of space. The pattern is slightly off, Tevik said slowly, zooming in on a particular section. The variation is more pronounced than it should be, but this could be measurement error or a local phenomena. Now look at this, Marcus said, overlaying the human data on the same display. These are our measurements of the same region, but using gravitational lensing techniques. See the correlation? The pattern became clear. The background radiation anomalies lined up perfectly with gravitational distortions that the Imperial sensors had never been designed to detect. You were seeing the effects of the cascade all along, Marcus explained. Your equipment was picking up the distortions it causes in background radiation. You just didn't know what you were looking at because you weren't also tracking the gravitational component. Pevris stared at the data, his mind racing. If this is true, if this is really true, we have 5 years? Give or take a few months, Amara confirmed. The cascade is not moving at a perfectly constant speed. It accelerates when it encounters dense regions of space and slows slightly in empty voids. But our calculations show it will reach the outer systems of this region of the galaxy in approximately 5 years. In another room, Captain Sarah Chun sat with Admiral Vexal and Ambassador Philenix. The mood was tense. The Admiral had been largely silent since the presentation began, his face unreadable. You understand what you're asking? Vexal said finally. You want the Empire to accept the word of an unknown species about a threat we cannot independently verify. You want us to potentially change our entire military strategy, redirect resources, all based on your say-so. I understand your skepticism, Sarah said. If I were in your position, I'd feel the same way. That's why we're offering to help you verify it independently. We'll share our sensor technology. We'll show your scientists how to detect gravitational lens distortions. Within weeks, your own teams will be able to confirm what we're telling you. And if it's a trick? Vexal challenged. If this is some elaborate scheme to get us to lower our defenses while you prepare an invasion? Sarah met his gaze steadily. Then we've wasted an enormous amount of time and effort on a very complicated plan when we could have just attacked. Admiral, you've seen what one of our ships can do. If we wanted to invade, we wouldn't need tricks. It was a blunt statement, but true. The human ship had demonstrated clear technological superiority. If they had hostile intentions, diplomacy would be unnecessary. Assuming this is all real, Philenix said carefully, what exactly are you proposing? How do we fight something that unravels space-time itself? We don't know yet, Sarah admitted. That's part of why we need to work together. Our scientists have some theories. Maybe we can generate a counterfield that stabilizes space-time ahead of the wave. Maybe we can find a way to redirect it or slow it down. Or maybe we'll have to evacuate, move everyone to the far side of the galaxy and hope we can build new homes before the wave catches up. Evacuate billions of people. Vexal shook his head. That's impossible. So is surviving a wave that destroys reality itself, Sarah countered. I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm saying we need to try, and we need to start now. Philenix looked between the two military officers and then made a decision. I will present this information to the Emperor and the Imperial Council. I cannot promise they will believe it, but I will make sure they take it seriously. That's all we ask, Sarah said. Give your scientists access to our data. Let them confirm it independently. Once they see the truth, hopefully everyone will understand the urgency. And what about the other powers in the galaxy? Philenix asked. The Zoronic Rebellion, the merchant guilds, the independent systems? Are you making contact with them as well? Sarah nodded. We're in the process of reaching out to every major civilization. The cascade doesn't care about politics or territorial disputes. It will destroy everyone equally. We need the entire galaxy to work together. That's Ambitious, Dixal said dryly. Most of these civilizations have been enemies for centuries. Some have been at war for generations. Then maybe a common threat will give them a reason to stop, Sarah suggested. Humanity has a saying, nothing unites people like a shared enemy. Well, now we have the ultimate shared enemy. A force of nature that wants to kill us all. The meeting broke up shortly after. The Imperial delegation needed time to process everything they had learned. The humans were given quarters on the station and politely asked to remain there while the Empire verified their claims. Marcus set up equipment to help Imperial scientists recalibrate their sensors. He worked alongside them, patiently explaining the principles of gravitational lensing and exotic particle detection. The Imperial researchers were initially suspicious, but Marcus's genuine enthusiasm for the science was infectious. Soon they were working together, making adjustments and running tests. Within 3 days, the first confirmation came. An Imperial Deep Space Observatory, equipped with new sensor modifications, detected the gravitational anomalies. The pattern matched exactly what the humans had predicted. Within a week, 5 more observatories confirmed the findings. Within 2 weeks, the Imperial Science Council issued a formal report concluding that the cascade was real and represented an existential threat to the entire galaxy. The Empire was forced to accept the truth. The humans had been right. Admiral Dexal returned to Kevra Station with new orders. He found Sarah in the observation lounge, looking out at the stars through the large viewport. "Captain Chun," he said formally, "the Emperor has reviewed the evidence. He agrees that the cascade is real and that action must be taken." Sarah turned to face him. "That's good news. What kind of action?" "The Empire is calling for an emergency summit of all major galactic powers. We're proposing a temporary truce between all factions to address this threat. You and your people will be asked to present your findings to the Assembly." "We'd be honored," Sarah said. "When does the summit begin?" "In 3 weeks. It will take that long to arrange security and get everyone to the neutral meeting ground." Vexal paused, then continued in a less formal tone. "I want you to know that I didn't trust you at first. I thought this was a trick or a prelude to invasion." "I know," Sarah said simply. "But you were patient. You provided evidence. You let us verify everything independently. That takes courage, to reveal yourselves like this and trust that we wouldn't try to destroy you." Sarah smiled slightly. "We didn't come this far just to start a war. Humanity has seen enough wars. We wanted to do something different." "Be something different." "You've certainly succeeded in being different," Vexal said. "A species that hides for 30 years, developing world-breaking technology, and then reveals itself to warn everyone about a common threat. It's not the approach most civilizations would take." "Most civilizations are not humanity," Sarah replied. The Great Summit took place on Terminus Station, an ancient neutral meeting ground that floated in the empty space between territories. The station was huge, built centuries ago when the first galactic trade agreements were negotiated. Now it hosted the largest gathering of different species and civilizations in recorded history. Ships from across the galaxy filled the space around the station. The mighty dreadnoughts of the Calrex Empire shared space with the sleek vessels of the merchant guilds. Zoranak rebel cruisers maintained a careful distance from Imperial forces. Independent systems sent their representatives. Even the mysterious void dwellers, who rarely left their deep space habitats, sent delegates, and quietly, almost invisibly, 3 more human ships arrived. They parked themselves at the edge of the gathering, dark and silent, a reminder of the technology that had forced this summit to happen inside the station's Grand Assembly Hall. Over 200 delegates from 50 different civilizations gathered. The room was designed to accommodate many different species. The atmosphere was carefully controlled with multiple zones for different breathing requirements. Translation devices allowed everyone to understand each other, though the constant babble of different languages created a chaotic background noise. Captain Sarah Chun stood on the main platform, feeling very small despite the large holographic display behind her. Ambassador Philenix had offered to present the findings himself, but Sarah had insisted on doing it. This was humanity's warning to deliver. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice amplified to reach every corner of the hall. "I know many of you are here reluctantly. I know some of you are enemies who would prefer to be fighting rather than talking. But what I'm about to show you affects all of us equally." She activated the display. The cascade appeared, that spreading darkness at the edge of the galaxy. The simulation showed what would happen as it moved inward. System after system blinking out of existence. The room went silent as the delegates watched stars die for the next hour. Sarah and her team presented their evidence. They showed the sensor readings, explained the physics, demonstrated how Imperial scientists had independently verified the findings. They showed projections of when the cascade would reach different regions of the galaxy. When she finished, the questions came fast and furious. "Why should we trust the word of a species we've never heard of?" demanded a Zorana commander, his voice harsh. "You don't have to trust us," Sarah replied calmly. "We've provided all our data. We've shared our sensor technology. Verify it yourselves. Send your own observers. The truth doesn't change based on who tells it." "Even if this threat is real," said a Merchant Guild representative, "what can we possibly do? You're talking about a force that destroys space-time itself. What defense exists against that?" "We have some ideas," Marcus Webb said, stepping forward. "They're theoretical, but they might work. We could try to generate a massive gravitational field to deflect the wave, or create a counterfield that stabilizes spacetime. Or we could build an early warning network and focus on evacuation. But all of these require resources and cooperation on a scale that no single civilization can manage alone." "You're asking us to work together," said an Imperial counselor, "to share technology and resources. Many of us here are at war with each other." "Then stop fighting," Sarah said bluntly. "The cascade doesn't care about your wars or your territories. It will kill all of you just the same. You can choose to keep fighting each other and die separately. Or you can work together and maybe survive." A Void Dweller delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a specialized suit, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. "And if we refuse? If we choose to face this threat on our own?" "Then you'll die alone," Sarah said. "I won't pretend otherwise. No single civilization has the resources or technology to stop the cascade by themselves. Not even humanity. We're good at solving problems, but this problem is too big for any one group. It requires all of us." The debate raged for hours. Some delegates accepted the threat immediately and wanted to begin planning. Others demanded more proof. A few refused to believe it at all, claiming it was a hoax designed to make them weak. But gradually, as more and more independent observations confirmed the human data, the skeptics became a minority. The cascade was real. The threat was genuine. Something had to be done. The real fighting began when they discussed how to respond. Every civilization had different ideas, different priorities, different fears. The Zoranic wanted guarantees that the Empire wouldn't use the crisis to attack them. The merchant guilds wanted trade agreements established before committing resources. The independent systems wanted assurances they wouldn't be absorbed by larger powers. Ambassador Philenix and Dr. Amara Okafor worked tirelessly to mediate. They negotiated compromises, found middle ground, and slowly built consensus. It took 3 weeks of constant meetings, arguments, and careful diplomacy, but finally, on the 21st day of the summit, an agreement was reached. It was called the Terminus Accord. Every major civilization in the galaxy signed it. The agreement established several key principles. First, all military conflicts would be suspended for 5 years while the galaxy dealt with the cascade. Second, a joint research council would be formed to study the phenomenon and develop countermeasures. Third, resources would be pooled and shared based on need rather than political power. Most importantly, humanity was granted full membership in the galactic community as an equal partner, not a subject or protectorate. In exchange, they would share their advanced sensor technology and provide technical expertise in the fight against the cascade. The day after the signing, human ships began arriving at Imperial space stations. Not warships, but science vessels and supply transports. They brought sensor equipment, technical manuals, and human scientists eager to help. Marcus Webb found himself working alongside Imperial physicists, teaching them about gravitational manipulation and exotic matter. The scientists who had been suspicious of him weeks before were now his colleagues, working together to solve impossible problems. Dr. Amara Okafor traveled between civilizations, helping establish communication protocols and research-sharing agreements. She became something of a galactic celebrity. The wise human who had helped unite the galaxy, and Captain Sarah Chun found herself promoted to Admiral, commanding a joint human-imperial task force focused on building an early warning network across the galaxy's edge, 6 months after first contact. Admiral Chun stood on the observation deck of a newly constructed research station. It hung in space at the galactic rim, one of 30 such stations forming a perimeter. Each station was a joint effort, with crews from a dozen different species working together. Admiral Vexal stood beside her. They had become something like friends over the months of working together. The old Imperial officer had learned to respect the humans, and Sarah had learned to appreciate the Empire's organizational efficiency. "It's quite a sight," Vexal said, gesturing to the view. Ships from across the galaxy moved between the stations, carrying equipment and personnel. Zoranak engineers worked alongside Imperial technicians. Merchant guild vessels delivered supplies. Void dwellers contributed their unique understanding of energy physics. "It is," Sarah agreed. 6 months ago, most of these people were enemies. Now they're working together. "Because they have to," Vexal said. "Fear is a powerful motivator." "It's not just fear," Sarah countered. "Yes, the threat forced them to cooperate. But now that they're working together, they're seeing the benefits. Sharing technology, learning from each other, solving problems faster than any one group could alone. Fear brought them together, but I think they're starting to see that cooperation has value beyond simple survival." "Your species planned this, didn't you?" Vexal said suddenly. The dramatic entrance, the warning about the cascade, all of it. "You didn't just want to make contact. You wanted to unite the galaxy." Sarah was quiet for a moment, then smiled slightly. "We saw an opportunity. The galaxy was divided, constantly fighting. Humanity learned the hard way that division leads to destruction. We had countless wars before we finally united our own world. When we discovered the galactic community was just as divided, and then we detected the cascade. Yes, we saw an opportunity to maybe help prevent the same mistakes we made." "That's remarkably arrogant," Vexal observed. "To think you could reshape galactic politics?" "Probably," Sarah admitted. "But we had to try. Because the alternative was watching everyone tear themselves apart while a real threat approached. At least this way, there's a chance. And if the cascade can't be stopped? If all this cooperation and effort fails?" Sarah looked out at the gathered ships, at the station full of different species working together, and her expression grew thoughtful. "Then at least we'll have tried. At least we'll have shown that cooperation is possible, that old enemies can become allies. Maybe that's worth something even if we fail. Maybe the next galaxy that faces a crisis like this will remember our example." "You're an optimist," Vexal said. "I'm human," Sarah replied. "We're stubborn that way. We don't give up easily." 3 years passed. The joint research efforts bore fruit. Scientists from a dozen species worked together to develop a network of gravitational field generators. The theory was sound.